If training doesn't drive pipeline, it's just content. So let's talk about how to create partner education that turns enablement into empowerment and certifications into revenue. Welcome to Foresight Unfiltered Partner Podcast Series, where we go beyond playbooks and dive into the real world strategies that make partnerships work. In our first track, Scaling Smart, we tackled a number of topics, including what it takes to scale a partner practice in that all-important revenue growth stage, from aligning revenue goals to co-selling motions, incentivization, and driving real partner-led growth, which is obviously all of our goals. Now, in this track, we're zooming in on another critical phase of partner engagement, and that's enablement. This track, Partner Empowered, is all about what happens to get your partners ready to scale. I'm Jeff Ballard, your host for the Buyer Foresight Unfiltered Partner Podcast Series. I've helped numerous B2B tech companies, both big and small, move beyond basic enablement to build scalable partner programs that deliver real impact with strategic revenue-generating partnerships. So today, I'm anxious to chat about this very important topic, education that pays, monetizing enablement through sales-driven learning. It's so important, I can barely say the words. So let's get into this. Partners don't need more webinars. They need learning paths that lead to deals. This episode explores how to design education journeys, sales, technical, and post-sale, that map to business outcomes, boost activation, and deliver a measurable ROI. So today, I'm going to have a guest on who hopefully can get through his words a little bit better than what I'm doing right now. But I'm joined by Alex Richards, Regional Vice President of Partnerships for Quantum Metric. Alex, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and Quantum Metric.
Sure. No, thanks for having me, Jeff. Appreciate it. I'm Alex Richards, based out of the New York area. I'm RVP of Partnerships here over at Quantum Metric. I'm basically in charge of operationalizing our partnerships program. So everything from operationals through to scaling educational programs, making sure we've got the right systems in place. But I also oversee a number of our key strategic partnership relationships, as well as all of our global solutions and services partners as well. And I think that ties very nicely into the topic that we're talking about today, because that is usually a key piece of those types of partners. I'm relatively new to this company, but have been in the space for a very long time. So everything from experience design and customer experience is kind of where we sit today.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with your background. You've definitely been in this partner space and around partners for a while. So I'm anxious to hear some of your insights on what we're talking about today. But first, I'm gonna hit you, just kind of get you warmed up. I'm gonna hit you with a hardball question. All right, you ready for this? I want to know what it is that you do when you're not working. You know, that fun relaxation time. What is it you're doing at that? What are hobbies, interests?
I know we spoke about this before, and we were saying, well, what is relaxation? So I think I'm one of those people that doesn't ever really switch off. So when I do have downtime, it hits me quite hard, and I have to really kind of enjoy it. But yeah, it's spending time with the family. Some of my favorite kind of moments right now are, I've got a 3-year-old. I take him to play tennis, and we try and do fun dude stuff. We're like going and seeing car shows and things like that. And in my spare time, I also help local companies and stuff building their businesses, and also help a few local musicians with some of their sort of music production stuff. So I'm always on the go, but it's always sort of like creative outlets, I think, for me, that seem to keep me satisfied, and just making sure that my family is having a good time with me at the same time as well.
That's awesome. And I love the 3-year-old teaching 3-year-old tennis. Can he get the ball? Can your 3-year-old get the ball over the net?
He's good. He's good. Takes a little bit of direction and bribery, but the more energy that you throw at him, the more energy he throws back to you, which is always good. So yeah, he's doing
Oh,
well.
I totally get that. My grandson came to visit a couple of months ago, and 3 years old, and holy cow, that dude was go, I'll go. Even when he was standing still, he was going. It's just
Yep,
crazy. So I
yep,
can appreciate that.
yep. It's just like the Energizer Bunny, just or Duracell Bunny, Energizer Buzzy, a bunny.
And
Yeah,
yeah, yes,
no off switch. So
they,
yeah.
they spent billions and billions on branding, and yes, it's the Energizer. All right, so let's get into partnerships here. So, first question that I've got: how do you build training that drives behavior, not just attendance?
It's a very big question. So for this one, what I've done in a number of different companies, first of all, is trying to understand how do we do it internally. So a lot of I typically frame training off of how we're supporting services partners. So anyone that's delivering professional services, implementation, anything on top of that. Typically, I think that's a great starting point because with technology partners or ISVs, typically it's just sort of general enablement that you would essentially be doing with those types of partners. So what I like to do first of all is assess the landscape that we have internally and understand where the gaps are. And from there, basically understand then where do we need to sort of fill in the gaps. And what I've been doing recently in our company is rebuilding curriculums and with a number of key stakeholders in our company. And then basically just seeing sort of what works and what doesn't. And it's been a big learning curve, I think, for certain people in our company just to adapt. But it's been really, really productive. And I think it's understanding at the end of the day what does a partner then need to deliver on, because you could produce some training that might be very specific to, I don't know, selling, but if you're trying to train a agency on how to provide analytical services, teaching them how to sell isn't really going to help them. So I think it's sort of understanding that usually your onboarding within your own business is a really good key foundation to start from. And then splitting that up into a way where you can then fragment that out to different, I don't know, third parties that might be working with you, who might be, referral partners, technology partners, value-added resellers, agencies, system integrators, so on and so forth. So that's typically the approach that I take, and there's a lot of additional things that I do on top of that. But identifying the roles, the outcomes that they need to drive, and understanding the skills that are associated with that falls across that sort of that line.
Yeah, and for me, it's about. I know we always talk about enablement, but I like to think about it more in terms of empowerment, because it's really about helping those partners build a practice around your product or your solution. And to me, that's what's really going to help drive that, not go beyond attendance and really drive business for us.
Exactly. And the other thing that, on top of attendance, a lot of people talk certifications, and the amount of technology partners that we work with who will push certifications on you, and you're kind of like, what are we getting out of this? I think certifications can work in certain ways, but again, it's about what is the output or the behaviors that you're trying to drive. And if you can't create that continuous sort of cycle of, I like to change the word enablement to activation, continuous activation, because I think if you can't continuously activate, then at some point your partner's going to drop off. And my view has always been, if I can teach a service partner how to deliver, that is going to generate loyalty from their customers. Word's going to get out there, and then it's going to drive new business as well. And that's sort of that continuous sort of cycle that I'm always looking for, and I think a lot of other companies are generally looking for as well. So empowerment, activation, and continuous sort of enablement.
Yeah, I love how we both disregard the word enablement. To me, it just feels like a right certification, training. It's things you tick off. Yep, got it, got it, got it. But going to that activation, going to that empowerment, it's really going beyond to drive that behavior and to generate that outcome, like we talked about. So what learning formats work best for the various partner personas, sales, technical? And I like to include marketing. I know not many people talk about that, but the marketing folks also need to have some level of enablement as well.
So this is actually a really hot topic for me and a number of people that I've been talking to in my network, because I started earlier on in the year having a few discussions with a number of different companies, and as many of us know, everyone always wants to funnel somebody into a partner management platform or a PRM and say, oh, certification track, log in, learn, all this sort of stuff. But in the world that I live in with our company and customer experience, it's about meeting customers where they are. And I think sometimes we disregard that when it comes to partners. There's always this expectation that they're going to come into where you think they should be. So some of the things that I've been playing around with, and I'm probably going to bring to our company as well, is, well, how do we provide bite-sized learning? So there's a number of different companies out there where you can provide sort of like, kind of like you would with a few images, like slide. There might be 10 little things that you go through, and then you've picked up on like a new product launch and things like that. And you could drop that into Slack, you could drop it into WhatsApp, you could do something along the lines of that to make it bite size. I think having things like that is really interesting. And then there's a number of people that I'm talking to in my network as well that are actually just trying to find different ways to engage people with notifications around new learning and new training, where it could be that they are getting a reminder on like a LinkedIn message or something like that about, hey, there's this going on, there's X, Y, and Z. Because I think that's just trying to break the mold between expecting people to log into sort of this fortress versus meeting them in Slack or Teams or something like that. So I would say for marketing, definitely is a team that generally is underserved. I think there's this expectation that they're always going to deliver, but sometimes they're not even at the party. So I think it's really good to let them know, what are you working on internally with your strategy? How does that align with your partner? And then how do you bridge the gap? And then I would say with typical sales teams, it's always just knowing, if there's a new persona, there's a new strategy, there's a new product module, something like that. How do you enable them quickly? And it could be a certification, it could be online classes. Generally, I've found that if you can make a bit more of a splash around a webinar or some bite-sized nuggets that you can send somebody their way, whether that's email or Slack, it works really, really well. But the world that I find hardest to crack typically is getting those sellers excited about pushing something new out there, and then how do you collaborate on the back of that? So do you need to incentivize it, things like that as well?
Yeah, and that actually leads me to my next question. Though, taking those certifications, whether they're sales or technical, how can you tie that to tiering, incentives, or even access to deals?
I think that's a really good point. I mean, to my comment earlier on about this sort of continuous cycle, this continuous loop, certifications, tiering, things like that, it's not important unless it's driving an outcome. And I know typically within companies or in partner organizations, when you're talking about tiering, it's usually, there's a minimum deal threshold or a minimum amount of referrals or something like that, and then that will throw you into a certain tier. I think it should be aligned more to sort of a combination of things, where if you can drive learning activities, maybe that does make you more kind of certified or a higher tier than other people. But also as well, there's proof in that as well. So you could do all the certifications in the world, but if you can't deliver on that, then should you be a higher tier or not? So I think the thing that we've been playing around with is actually seeing, yes, you're certified, but if you can deliver those services and prove it out, and that's then driving maybe some new deals or some upsells, that should drive higher tiering and higher incentives, and then access to wider resources within our business as well. So that's sort of how we're approaching it right now. But it does get a little frustrating when you might be on the receiving end of, training and things like that, and then you're just automatically thrown into this lowest tier possible when you've actually been driving other activities which should technically kind of boost you up the totem pole a little bit around maybe access to marketing resources, sales teams, so on and so forth. So I think the best companies right now are trying to pull in a number of different things around education and then delivery on the back of that education to then boost incentives and tierings and things like that.
Yeah, for me, it's always been about, okay, you've got the training, you got the certification. Again, you've checked that box. Great. Now, to your point, it was about delivery. And we would always look at, once you got to deal 3, then we would start to unlock things, because anybody can land the first deal. Second deal, you're starting to develop something there. But by that third deal, you've got muscle memory that's going on. You've got a practice that you've developed. So we would always look at to your point, how do you then implement, what's your delivery looking like beyond the certification? And then let's prioritize you and give you access to greater things accordingly.
Agreed.
So what's the best way that you found to track learning to activity to revenue?
So one of the biggest things that I think has stuck with me was when I was part of the Apple delivery team when it came to training back. Seems like many years ago now, when I lived in wee old England over there, and we were hi Queenie, all that sort of fun stuff.
But accent was so thick, I didn't know that you were British.
Yes, yeah, it's usually British or Australian is what I keep being told as of late. But no, I mean, there was when I was a lot younger, we basically had about 250 new employees every 10 days that we were on board within Europe. And when I was going through my training to be able to deliver training to all these new employees, it was that there are many different ways that people learn. And if you pigeonhole learning to, say, it just being online, to filling out an online course, and people aren't really able to truly interact using different senses, because people learn in very different ways, it might not stick with people. And that's why I think if you can do a combination of online, in person, having to sort of show back what you've learned, or practice it in some way, it really allows people to actually demonstrate what they've learned and also consume it a bit better as well. And that's why I've actually enjoyed recently working with our team on doing in-person training, because you can adapt to how people are, how people consume and learn, and actually, I would say, kind of materialize what you're giving them. From our standpoint, and what we always do is we have our sort of PRM and CRM and our learning tools integrated. So whenever we run somebody through a onboarding, whether it's in person or they go through some self-learning, we're always going to basically track it through our portals to make sure that they've gone through, X curriculum. And at the end of that, we can say, yes, you have completed this, you are certified in this track. And basically any other activities that are related to that, we will roll it up as well. So one of my big initiatives when I joined this company was, well, we have a lot of people are being trained, but what is the output of that? So we had to take a step back, look at the landscape and go, well, we've been giving them the training, but we haven't really been telling them afterwards, like, what they should do with this training or understand how their business works. So we've basically been understanding, well, where do you fit in the market? How does your pipeline look compared to ours? And then if we enable you on these bits, which we think is your sweet spot, can we then go after X, Y, and Z customers or prospects and then see if we can deliver on that? So typically, to your comment earlier on around sort of the sweet spot of 3 deals, what we are tracking is individually everyone we've enabled, how that relates into the team and in that company. And then we will sort of earmark 3 prospects or customers, and then we will actually handhold them to a certain degree of when they're working through them, how they deliver, and then what they execute on. And then we've seen really positive results from that they can then go out and they're like, well, I'm actually really excited. I'm going to talk to this prospect, this customer, and they feel comfortable and confident about it, and you can sort of can that energy and use it again, which is really good. So that's typically how we're working. We don't use spreadsheets. We don't do sort of anything, I would say, too antiquated, but we try and roll it up into our partner Salesforce object with all the integrations that we have with PRMs and stuff, and get that all talking to one another so we can track the outputs.
That's awesome. That's one of the few that I've heard that depth of analysis that you do around the enablement. So that's great. From the partner side, it's never set it and forget it, do it and never have to go back to it. It's always about that ongoing learning. How is it that you found the best way to keep partners engaged and do that continuous learning over time?
I think it's a challenge. I think you probably found as well from people that you talk to. It's I don't think anyone sort of got that silver bullet, but I think it's sort of a mindset change. We, admittedly, as a company, haven't been great at continuous engagement with partners, and I'm running a number of initiatives right now to sort of change some of the things that we've been up to. We have really good people within our company. We have great customers. We have great energy around what we do. But I think at times, in any company, you can always get stuck in your routine, and sometimes you forget about how people might be perceiving you, who you work with. So I think a lot of us are trying to actually just ground ourselves and remember, well, yes, we're seeing what we're doing, but how are we being perceived, and how can we just take a moment and say, you know what? Yeah, once a month having a product update and a partner program update that anyone can join is really helpful. Us having a dedicated Slack channel that all partners can live in, and we can just throw bite-sized updates about, a product release or a new incentive we're running, as well as hitting them on email through the PRM, is helpful. Having office hours is all helpful. I think the more you offer up and the more barriers that you break down to allow people to have access to you, enables a tighter relationship, and partnerships is all about relationships. And you can sort of build upon that. But I'm always into finding different ways that people can engage. And I've got to admit, there's some of my best friends that are in my network are really doing some quite innovative ways of engaging with people where I might not be sort of in 2035 where they're living. I'm in, 2025 or 2024 still. So I'm always learning, but I think we're doing a lot better, and we're trying to sort of push the boundaries there a bit more.
Yeah, it's that ongoing engagement, and making sure that you're talking and engaging with your partners. I've always found that being very critical. One of the things that I found success with was just monthly coaching calls, having a specific topic. We did it on a Friday morning California time, because Fridays tend to be a little bit more down, a little bit more relaxed, and so people could join. And we would just pick a particular topic, either from a sales perspective or a technical perspective around the product. And we would just do a coaching session, and people can come with their questions, and we were able to kind of push an agenda or a topic that we felt was important, whether it was a new product launch or new direction, or we wanted to highlight a case study. So we found that to be a really nice thing.
It's a really good thing to be able to sort of engage that way. And I've been having a lot of thoughts lately about, well, if we have key people identified in our PRM that we know we've trained, or our key stakeholders in the business, could we also do something where if they allow us to, and they say they give consent to us engaging with them openly on Slack or WhatsApp or LinkedIn, could we prompt them like each month, like, hey, what is top of mind for you, when it comes to your world and quantum metric? And then what we could actually do is using, prompting or AI to then say, well, hey, this is your challenge. This is how we could help you. And then we actually try and drive engagement and activity through creating conversational engagement that then can drive a number of different initiatives through, pushing somebody into the PRM to a certain learning track, certain incentives, maybe reaching out to my team and saying, hey, Ryan needs training on here because they're interested in this. I think I think it's trying to meet people where they are, but also I think maybe sort of decoupling ourselves from it's always on us as the individual to be able to deliver, and we do have tools out there to try and help us channel that. But yeah, lots of crazy ideas at the moment with AI. So I'm trying to see if we can activate some of those.
Oh, I thought we were going to get through one session where we didn't utter those.
I didn't use the other A word though. I'm not going to use the other A word that comes with AI. So if we can get through this without saying that one, that would be great.
All right, well, we're almost there, and we're down to the last question, and this is the hardest one of all. And I ask this of all my guests, and really, there is a right answer, and the answer will determine our relationship going forward. But no pressure, no pressure. So here's the question: Beatles or Stones?
So you're going to be able to tell that I'm not an American. Stones.
Well, it's been great having you on, Alex. We'll talk to you next time.
I mean, how can you not beat a song like Satisfaction? I mean, there's, you've got, Mick Jagger and the groups it was just amazing. So, yeah, every artist, like anything in the world, has some great capabilities and fits everyone in a certain way and part of their life. So I like both of them, but Stones is my preference.
Yeah, they are both great bands, which is why it's such a quandary question for some people. But I would go so far as to say there would be no Rolling Stones without the Beatles.
True.
So I just have to. I go to Beatles because they're the OG, and they didn't last. I'll give Stones longevity. I mean, my gosh, Mick Jagger just got a new chart hit in the last couple of months. So, they're going strong.
I think the real question though is it Beatles or the Spice Girls? That should be your next variation of this one.
That could take several turns, but we'll wrap up on that one.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us today. It was a great conversation. Love having your insights and hearing what you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
And if you want to continue a conversation with Alex or myself, make sure to reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn. We're both there. And also make sure to go to buyerforesight.com for more of our partner podcast series. For Alex, Buyer Foresight, and myself, thanks for joining. Thanks for hanging on this long. And remember, partnerships work when you work partnerships.